that the rates are going up. We see that the home availability sometimes can be of a challenge. And we've brought in experts to kind of help you navigate that process. The Economic Education Steering Committee, if everybody in the yellow shirts and a part of the team can kind of wave your hand around the room, we have been committed to supplying between 4 to 6 workshops each year since 2018 in partnership with Southfield Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and it's powered by Fifth Third Bank. They're one of our biggest partners that allow us to do this education for the community. So we're excited to have you here today. We're excited for our online audience to be a part of this experience with us today. So again, welcome. I will now bring up the president of Southfield Alumni Chapter, Kimberly Owens Calloway, to also bring greetings as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I am Kimberly Owens Calloway, proud president of the Saxational Southfield Alumni Chapter, and we are honored to bring you this important forum on demystifying the home buying process. It is our pleasure to partner with the Torch of Wisdom Foundation as well as Fifth Third Bank to bring important topics to the community. So thank you for taking the time to spend your evening with us. And it is my pleasure to bring up our third partner, Fifth Third Bank, and their representative, Tanya Rose.
Thank you, Kim. It is absolutely our honor to partner with the Torch of Wisdom and with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. They have been awesome partners throughout the years, and we're just looking forward to the program tonight and the type of impact that we hope that this program will make. Demystifying the home buying process is so important because it gives us an opportunity to share with you the down payment assistance programs that are available. And hopefully these programs will make home ownership a reality for those that may not be able to afford it. And this really levels the playing field, and we're hoping that people will take advantage of this opportunity to create wealth and legacy for their families. And again, thank you to the Torch of Wisdom and Delta Sigma Theta for partnering with us on this wonderful program for the community. So we're going to kick it off with introducing our esteemed panelists. We've got a really good group of powerhouse folks today that are going to share with you all of their awesome knowledge. And we're going to start over to the far right. And we have April Hayes. And April is going to give you some information about herself and let you know who she is and who she represents. She represents National Faith. April, if you could kick us off, and we're going to go down. It doesn't matter so long as you speak loudly.
All right. My name is April Hayes. I work with National Faith Home Buyers. National Faith has been in business since 1996, and I came in 97, so I've been there a minute. Okay. We actually offer homeownership education, we do down payment assistance, and we do credit counseling. So we're the person you want to see.
And then next, Kim Brown.
My name is Kimberly Brown, and I also work at National Faith Home Buyers. As April mentioned, we help with home buyer education, teaching you the process about purchasing. We also help with administrate down payment assistance, and we also do housing counseling. So if you're not ready just yet, we will show you how to get ready, and we are aware of a lot of grants and assistance programs that are available in Michigan. And we have 3 locations: Michigan, Georgia, and Florida.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we're going to go to Aleto Lebet. Thank you.
I'm used to it.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I am happy to be part of the team, and team it is. That's part of demystifying home buying. these folks are the first folks that I want you to see so that you can get your certification, so you can get your education. Now, we can give you some education, but certainly they are part of the team. I am, once again, a Twal Libet. I am the broker owner of Starlight Properties right here in Southfield. I have been doing this since 1986. I started at a very young age. I still love what I do. The most exciting thing for me to do is to solve the problem. I look at myself as a problem solver. I want to solve your problem, whatever that is, whether it's finding a home, selling a home, or even investing. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Bonita Shellman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bonita Shellman. I am happy to be here today. I am an independent representative for Keller Williams. I've been in this position now since 2014, so I've been empowering buyers through this whole maze of real estate. It can be in certain time for buyers. It could also be you got all anxiousness going on, you got confusion. So I'm here to make the process nice and smooth for you. That's not to say you won't have bumps at all. But as a Twal say, we are here. We need you to go get yourself approved, and then we take it from there. We are the backbone, I would kind of say, because we see you from the beginning to the end. I'm with you until you get to the closing table. And she said, we're all a team. And after, we are all a team. It's win-win for everyone, and that's even including on the sales side also. So my tagline is, I represent a brand name company, but I do boutique service. I care about my clients. I want to give them all the information, help them stay as calm as possible, and we become actually family and friends after the process. But just know that we're here to help you get it done and not take advantage of you either. And there's a lot going on out there with that also. But it could be a great process. I love helping first-time buyers because it's so rewarding to see people really get that dream home for themselves and know that this is the start of a legacy for them. Thank you.
So would it be correct, Twal and Bonita, to kind of say you two are the quarterbacks of this whole team and the home buying process?
Yes.
And next we're going to go over to Darren from MISHDA.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the invitation tonight. My name is Darren Montreal. I'm business development representative from the homeownership division of the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. So we have resources, just one of many that are available for first mortgage solutions, down payment assistance solutions, and we also have tax credit solutions to help make your home buying experience more affordable. So any questions that you have, if we don't have the resource at MISHDA, we can absolutely help you identify it. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Next, we're going to talk to Michael Starks.
Yeah, my name is Michael Stark. I work at Fifth Third Bank. I have branches in the city of Detroit, in the city of Pontiac, and the city of Southfield. I specialize in first-time home buyers, but also in individuals who have historically been underserved. My commitment is to do loans in this category. I could not do my job with the partners that you see up here on the stage. Without MISHDA's help, their down payment assistance program at $10,000 is very powerful. Without the realtor's help, if they don't help me with the negotiations and getting conditions and things we need to clear a loan to close, then a person doesn't get their home. And then also, the National Faith folks down at the end are being very modest. They do a lot more than just 4 things. And I could not close a loan without their help. If you want to get down payment assistance from MISHDA, you need to take a home buyer education class. You need to pass the class and get a certificate from an organization like National Faith Home Buyers. And so I'm very excited to be part of the discussion today, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we're going to introduce Brandon Huckstep.
Hi, I'm Brandon Huckstep with Fifth Third as well. I'm a vice president. I manage affordable lending. So Mike is on my team. We work with all partners and entities that you see here on the panel. My job is to help connect the community, the stakeholders with the products, the programs, the knowledge on how to access affordable home ownership, and making sure that we as a lending institution have products and programs for everyone. Not just people looking to buy $500,000 or $1 million properties, anything and everywhere. Also, we specialize with first-time home buyers, again, connecting them with the knowledge and resources to really make home ownership something that is obtainable, a true asset and not a liability. And the goal is to really just create generational wealth. As Mike said, we focus on underserved communities. Typically, when you go through certain doors, you don't get the same love, attention, or even knowledge. Every bank, every lender, even the government, states, municipalities, nonprofit organizations, there's products and programs for everyone. So the goal is making sure that we connect the dots, provide the education, and helping people make a informed decision and getting them to the closing table, keys in hand.
Yes.
Thank you, Brandon. And Brandon hit on two very important things, wealth and legacy. And I think it's so important for us all to have an opportunity to have a piece of that American dream. And for many, we've been left out of that dream. And I want to share with you my first time home buying experience. About 30 years ago, I had an opportunity to purchase my first home. Didn't think that it was something that would be possible for me. I did have relatives that were willing to help me with 3% down, and that was a FHA loan at the time. And I was completely unaware of any of the down payment assistance programs that may have been available to me at that time. And that's something that I don't want to happen to anybody else. I want everybody to take advantage of the information that they're getting tonight and share it with others so that all of us can be part of this American dream. So 30 years ago, I had just graduated from college, got my first job. I lived in an apartment for a couple of years. I was paying $1,000 for rent, which was very significant at that time. I didn't have a lot of disposable income, but what I was able to do was find a house in Southeast Michigan that was within my price range. I put down my 3% after getting a gift from my aunt and uncle that wasn't really a gift that I had to pay back. And through that experience, I found out that I was able to cut my rent in half to a mortgage of $500, that I was able to now have some additional expendable income that I could use on my car note, a vacation, and some other things that I really didn't have access to. But again, I didn't realize that home ownership wasn't within my reach unless I had an aunt and an uncle that talked to me about that and said, well, why are you doing this? But everybody doesn't have that. And that's why we're really dependent on the people in this room to share the information they learned tonight, because that's the only barrier to people having real wealth is they don't have the information. They don't know. So what I'm also asking is that if you aren't looking for a home yourself and know somebody that is renting, share the information with them. After living in that home that I just told you about for about 3.5 years, I had an opportunity to get a new job. They moved me out of the market, about 50 miles out of the market, and I was heartbroken that I had to sell this home. But what I didn't realize is how much equity I had in the home. And when I sold it, I got about $40,000. And I was in significant debt, student loan debt, because I had to pay my way through school. And that is how I was able to pay off my student loans and have additional down payment money where I did not have to pay private mortgage insurance. So that also reduced the money that I was paying out every month. So it's really important for folks to understand what the buying process is, and we've got all the experts up here up front that can talk to them about the process and make it less scary. So my first question is who wants to talk about some of the down payment assistance money? There are some large down payment assistance programs, dollar amounts that are really available, some that are throughout the state, some that are regional, just to Eastern Michigan. And so who wants to be the first to kind of share?
Start, if that's okay.
All right, sounds great.
So, MISHDA has a down payment assistance program that can be used in conjunction with our first mortgage product. And it correlates with your story. The nice thing about our program is it only requires that, bless you, that you only come in with the first 1% of the purchase price. So if you think about a scenario where you're purchasing just a $100,000 house, to make the math easy for me, you're coming in with that first $1,000. And after that, MISHDA will lend you up to the next $10,000 for the rest of the down payment, the closing cost, and the prepaids. Anything that's left over after that, you can use to pay down that first mortgage balance, giving you a more affordable first mortgage payment. So what this does is it gives people the opportunity to get into a home when they don't think that they have saved enough money, the 3% plus the closing costs plus the prepaids. And if you think about it, that 1% many times is going to be less than it takes you to get into the next apartment or the next rental house when you're talking about security deposits, first months, last months. So that's a statewide program. It's available to first-time home buyers, repeat home buyers, current home buyers, depending on what municipality you're purchasing in. And it can be stacked with some of the other programs that are available through lenders and through some of our nonprofit programs. So that's the state's program.
And that's something that they can use no matter where they are in the state of Michigan, correct?
Statewide, correct.
All right. So
So, National Faith administrates 4 different programs. So currently we have 3 programs available. Many of you have heard of the down payment assistance for the city of Detroit, which you can receive up to $25,000, which also can be layered with grants depending on where you get your loan. So Fifth Third has some grant money over there that you can layer with. We also have funding for the city of Livonia, which you can receive up to $14,999. We also have funding for Westland, which is up to $14,500. We do the majority cities in Wayne County, but not all. That contract is up to $14,000 in assistance that you can receive, and we're in the process of renewing that assistance program now. We also have assistance for Lincoln Park, which we're in the process of renewing it because we depleted the funds. But for Lincoln Park, you can get up to $14,999. With our assistance programs, depending on the city, it is affordability period. So for the city of Detroit, you must stay in a home for 3 years in order not to pay it back. For our other cities, it's a 5-year affordability. Longer as you stay in those properties for that time frame, you don't have to pay the assistance back. There is some guidelines. It does depend on your household income, which the cities does vary. So we do have more information at our table over there in the corner. So make sure you grab a packet and then we'll give you more information about the programs, or you can always give us a call.
So if there are parents out there that have adult children that are living in your homes, this might be an opportunity to be a real empty nester. Because that sounds like a lot of money. Is there an opportunity to kind of mirror the MISHDA money along with these down payment assistance programs?
There are absolutely opportunities to stack these programs so you can take advantage of all of them. Again, it's program by program, and that's something you'd have to talk to our lenders about. You would sit down, Michael, and he would be able to tell you what programs were stackable and which communities that works out best for, to leverage as many resources as possible.
Speaking of that, Mike, we just had an opportunity to talk earlier today about a success story. Can you share that with our audience?
Sure. We originate the Detroit $25,000 down payment assistance program in concert with our best friends at National Faith Home Buyers. And you do need a friend in this business, whether the friend be your realtor or MISHDA or your housing counselor. You need friends when you do this. But my success story has to do with a family Mom, dad, and 5-year-old son were renting, paying about $1,000 a month for a modest home in the city of Detroit. In order to qualify for the program, you have to be a Detroit resident for at least the last 12 months. This particular individual also met the conditions of 2 additional programs. So in addition to the Detroit $25,000 program, she qualified for a $5,000 grant from the Fannie Mae Foundation and a $3,600 grant from the Fifth Third Foundation. And the good news story was this: after we put the 3 down payment assistance programs together and we applied it to the new loan, her new mortgage was under $39,000 a month, a year. The mortgage was $39,000, her sales price was $70,000, and her mortgage payment was $421 a month. So with the difference, over $500 a month, she can save for her 5-year-old to go to college one day. She can maybe get a car fixed. She can maybe take a little trip. She can maybe go out to eat more than once a month. There's all sorts of things that can happen. She can also choose to save it and invest so that she will, create wealth that she can pass on to her son when the time comes. And just like April said from National Faith, if she lives in this home for 3 years and 1 day and keeps that mortgage current, the city of Detroit releases the $25,000 lien and she doesn't have to pay it back. And then the $8,600 from Fifth Third and Fannie Mae was a grant that showed up on the day of closing, and she doesn't have to pay that back. Wow. And this is something that's important because we can talk about home ownership, we can talk about building wealth that you can give to your family in the future, but talk isn't as important as getting it done. And that's why we're here today. Getting it done.
And yes, please.
We just got the Detroit funds the end of March. We got $6 million. We are just under $4 million. So it is being used. Okay?
And we have 2 years to spend it.
Yes. I don't think we're going to go that long.
So don't sit on this information. Share it. Share it, share it, share it, because it sounds like she received over $30,000 in down payment assistance money. And that's major. I wish I had somebody that gave me $30,000. A $30,000 start could have helped me pay back those student loans earlier, and I could have used that money for, something else. And so that's why it's so important for all of us to get together. And I'm hoping that this isn't the only presentation that we do. This is one building block, I'm hoping, in the fall. So if you know somebody that can utilize this, make sure you keep an eye on what's going on and send them back here in the fall to get the information. If there are people that you know that don't quite have their credit together as they're living with you in their homes, have them start paying their creditors back now, so come the fall they will have things paid down and more secure. And if you're interested, we do have community partners that we work with to help you get your credit together for free. Operation Hope is a wonderful partner, and they will work with them hold their hand the whole time, and before you know it, they'll have that 720, 800 credit score. Not saying that you have to have that in order to purchase a home, but the better your credit is, the better things are when it comes to the rate that you get the loan at. And I know a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't know, rates have gone up quite a bit, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to purchase a home. Well, 30 years ago, rates were up. It was over 8% when I got my home, and that didn't deter me, and I didn't have the type of down payment assistance that's available. And so that's what I want people to understand. This is potentially free money, and we should use it, because guess what? If we use it up, there are going to be other programs to come out, because they see that there's a true need and people have a hunger to be part of that American dream and create that legacy we've been talking about.
Right.
So, what kind of factors do people need to consider before they go out and start looking at homes. And so we're gonna go to our quarterbacks real quick. And so before they walk into your office or walk into, go out on Sunday and look at these open houses, what should they be thinking about?
I would say the very first thing we need to do, and especially this market, we ask them to go get pre-approved. We need to get the pre-approval because, one, we don't know what you can qualify for. So how can we go out and put in criteria and find the homes if we don't know what you qualify for? And when I mean qualify, I look for pre-approvals where the lender has already gone in and verified not just what you submitted online, but what they verified. That is pre-approval for us. It brings in, when it comes time to make an offer, we can come in strong. They've already verified the funds you have. Because when we go in, right now, there are multiple offer situations. Owners don't want to waste their time in taking an offer or looking at an offer that's not a solid. They're not going to even consider it. So we go in with that first. But once we've gotten that done, and however long that process takes, but then I go in and we sit down and I have a buyer's consult. Buyer's consult consists of what are you looking for? This is your amount. What are you looking for? What criteria? What are your wants? What are your needs? Where do you want to live? So we take into consideration all those factors. And then in our multi-listing system, we can go in and put in that criteria of homes. I kind of keep it a little bit more loose because sometimes buyers think they want something, but sometimes, as they say, we have champagne taste, but not as much beer money. So we kind of leave it a little loose with that. But I start to send them home so they can take a look and see what is it. And then once they start seeing things, we arrange to go in and see the homes. Once they, just to say they decided, we like this home. Well, we go in and put in an offer. I just don't put in an offer. I go in and I do a market analysis to make sure that this home we can get it at this price, or maybe it's way overpriced. But one thing I always tell my clients is you always want to know your money. You know what you can afford. Don't get caught up in all of the multiple offer situations and, bidding way over, because you gonna have to live after this house also. As they say, you don't want to be house poor. So once we do that, let's just say the offer was accepted, and there's a lot of things to get an offer accepted, but we have the private inspection. So private inspection is where I always recommend private inspection because it's for your good. Right. You go in for the private inspection, that is something that the buyer pays for, so that's another amount that they need to be aware of. You do the private inspection, it could go a couple of ways. It could be okay, we continue on, or there may be conditions. We could either go back to the seller and say, hey, we need for you to fix this, or no, we don't even want it. Sometimes the seller will even give you money to go ahead and fix it. You get past the inspection, let's just say it's good. Now it's time to let the lender in now and say this is where they get involved in the process and they do their thing. I don't get involved in the whole money aspect. I don't know your income and all of that. That is not for me to know. But the lender starts their thing. We get involved with title, all that happens. And once we can get appraisal goes on, but then they tell us we get to clear the close. That's what we always like to hear. But that's not guaranteed either. Until we get to the table and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, this is not a win-win for everybody. And again, this is a team with everyone. We get involved with the other side also, just keeping in contact with them. So for me, we just go through the whole process, and during that buyer's consult, we talk about all of that. So that's kind of it quickly. I don't know if you want to add something.
I just want to say that I'm going to talk about something that isn't as exciting as telling the agent what it is that you want. And that is something called agency disclosure. That is something that the state requires us to talk to all buyers about. If you're working with an agent and they're sending you listings and so forth, they may not be working on your behalf.
That's right.
Their agency means that a person is representing you. they owe you confidentiality, they owe you fiduciary duty, because we do handle your earnest money deposit.
That's right.
So we're responsible for that money. They owe you loyalty, which means that anything they tell you to do, as long as it's within the law, you're supposed to do. So when you go into that open house and you begin to talk to that agent who has that property listed, don't tell that agent too much, because he or she has a listing and they're representing that seller. So anything that you tell them, they must tell that seller. By the same token, the buyer can be represented by an agent, and they owe that same fiduciary duty to the agent owes that fiduciary duty to that buyer. Of course, that requires a contract too, but the agent owes that person loyalty, fiduciary duty, which actually means that if I get on the phone and I call my sister here and she says, oh, my seller's willing to take $20,000 less because I'm going to see what I can get out of her. Guess who I'm going to tell first, okay? So anything that I find out about the property, whether it is something like that, or it could be that they're getting ready to build a dump down the street from you and the wind blows toward that house. I need to tell you that. I need to be able to tell you that, which means that we also have the fiduciary duty, or the duty to know what's happening in the area in which we are working and showing you properties. Which brings me to something else. I moved here, I started my career in Kalamazoo. And even though I know that area very well, I'm not going to go sell houses over there. I'm going to refer that person to someone over there. So if you know of people who are somewhere else and they need a house, just because they live here and they want to live in Livonia maybe, even Livonia, as close as Livonia are, there are things about Livonia that I don't know. And so I may refer somebody to Livonia who comes to me, because I don't know Livonia that well. But the idea of agency and having somebody represent you is very important. There's also something called dual agency. So I went to a listing presentation this morning and I was talking to my folks. I sold them their house in 2016. And we were talking about how much the house would sell for now and what they would have left over. And in signing a contract with them, I actually represent them. You come to me, let's say you come to me a month from now, and we're talking and you want representation. And so after a while, you can't find what you want, but then you change, you say, I want to live in this neighborhood, I want 3 bedrooms, bath and a half, I want a nice patio. I'm going to show you my listing. At that point, because she signed a contract with me, I become a dual agent if everybody agrees. Everybody has to agree that I can work for both of you. It's not an easy way to work, I'm telling you, because what it means is anything that I know, I can't tell either party unless there's something in writing that says it's okay to do this. So that's dual agency, and it does happen occasionally. I've only done it twice. I didn't like it. So, and then there's transaction coordinator. So you come to me and you say, I want to sell this house to my cousin, and we have the price, we have the terms, but I just want to make sure that everything goes right. At that point, I'm not representing anybody. I'm what's called a transaction coordinator, and I make sure that it goes through the whole process. She mentioned title work. That's very important. I want to make sure I tell them both, they sit down at the table. Sometimes I've done that before and they negotiate right in front of me, but I don't have anything to do with that. But I do say, okay, we need to get title work to make sure that she owns this property. So, and that happened to a lot of people. They were buying houses that other folks owned. We had a problem with that. I know you all, we went through that whole bubble burst thing, and oh boy, that was a mess. So whatever you do, make sure that someone has explained agency to you, and that you get title work, and that you get the inspection. And I've got a brochure back here on the table that's got some tips and so forth on it, and it tells you about the different types of inspections, because you can have a home inspection, but there are certain kinds of inspections that, like radon. Recently, who knows what radon is in this room? Have you ever heard of it? Yes. Okay, so very few people in this area have even heard of radon gas. It happens. We sold a house recently. Someone told this young couple, we want a radon test. Wonderful. I wasn't expecting anything back. The radon test was positive. Not a big deal, but there's something that has to be done, and that throws you back into negotiation. Back into negotiation isn't a bad thing, you know, because most people, depending on how reasonable they are, and this is a reasonable market, this is really the time to buy. People are not going crazy like they were. Yes, inventory is down, interest rates are up a little bit, but the market always rights itself. And I'm going to stop right there.
Well, you did a great job on talking about what a fiduciary is. So I'm sure people in this audience, there might be some that knew, maybe some that didn't. Some people that are listening online perhaps didn't know. So thank you for explaining that. There was one other word that you mentioned that I had no clue what it was until I purchased my first home, and that's that earnest money. Yes. So can you talk about a little bit, what is the earnest money? What does that really mean?
Earnest money is something I think that goes back to the old days when it replaced the handshake.
Yes.
Earnest money says, I really am serious about purchasing your property. Now, it may not be money, because one time I had a client who didn't have money at the time, and we had talked about this. He had money in the bank, but he went out and spent it. It wasn't irresponsible. I think his car broke down or something, so he had to he put up his coin collection. We had to have it appraised, but it was earnest money, you know, and the people said, oh yeah, we'll take that for earnest money, you know. So, because the coin collection was worth more than what he was going to put down. So earnest money is something that basically is a good faith that you are truly interested in purchasing the home. And the earnest money goes toward your down payment. The 1% that you were talking about, a lot of times people use that 1% as their earnest money. A lot of people will ask for 3% as the earnest money, because that's the down payment that's needed in a particular type of mortgage. So, and then there are things that happen with the earnest money. Sometimes there can be an earnest money dispute if for some reason the sale falls apart. But the whole idea is that there are contingencies in a purchase agreement. That's the other thing. If you sit down with your agent for their initial talk with you, you want to have an idea about the forms, so that when you go into that house and you say, this is the house for me, the first time you're seeing that purchase agreement isn't when you're all gaga. You want to be able to look at that form ask questions ahead of time so that you make a good decision when you're having your agent help you fill out that form. So earnest money, it's a good thing to have. It can be used for many purposes. Sometimes there can be a dispute over the earnest money. Just know that. Make sure that you are not giving the whole boat away when you put your earnest money down. But in general, people are reasonable. I haven't had a lot of problem with that, you know, with the earnest money. And the one time I did, people pushed it. I had to go to court with my client, but the earnest money was given. Oh, realtors do all kinds of things. You guys just don't know. You know? So we're part of, you hear about life coaches now. We are part of the life coach. You know, not only do we help couples through this process, but as you said, we are part of that coaching team, just like the Lions have a defensive coach and a back coach and a kicking coach. We are part of that team.
And you really do need an agent that is working on your behalf. I talked about a story of when I purchased my first home, but I purchased another home later on down the road with my husband, and we picked out this neighborhood we wanted to live in, and we walked into this house. We thought it was so beautiful, and right when we walked in the door, back then they still had landlines in the house, and they had an answer machine that was hooked up to it, and it was turned all the way up. And on that message, when we were walking through the home, there was another realtor. Yes, I have somebody else that is wanting to come in and look at the house today. And we're like, what? Somebody else is coming to look at the house today? You know, to make you anxious about, I got to make a decision right now. And all the while I'm thinking this person that is showing us through the house, she's working on our behalf, and not really. And so there are games that are played sometimes, and it sounds so rudimentary. You know, why would somebody do that? But it happens. So if someone happens to have a son that decides that they have first and last month rent already, and I say, you know what, I think that could be used as a down payment. And you could perhaps get some down payment assistance. At what point should somebody start looking to see how much down payment assistance they could get, especially if we're talking about that $100,000 house and maybe they only have, you know, $1,000, which is that first and last month's rent. That's not the best apartment, but hey, let's stick with the $1,000. How do they go about applying for some of this other funding? Should they do that before they go see the quarterbacks and start looking, or at what point do they figure that part out?
So, staying with the team theme here.
I know, I'm like, what, so who are we? I'm like,
You want to do that, that's the first thing, you want to go see a lender. And I would say you go see a lender before you go see your quarterback, because you want to establish a foundation. You want to know what you can afford, and you don't want a generic pre-approval. Yeah, you're approved for $100,000. Well, we just know that's not true, because if I'm in the city of Detroit, I might be eligible for $25,000. If I'm looking in Livonia, you want somebody that's going to say, all right, where are we looking? What are we looking for? Here, this is your number. Here, this is your number. You want something that's a little more in depth, somebody that's going to work with you so you can take advantage of all the resources. You want to make sure that you understand where your threshold is, because you don't want somebody who might not be working in your best interest to say, you know what, I think we can get you into a house that's more than $100,000, 120, 130, because then that's financially an irresponsible decision. You want somebody that's going to explain to you where your resources are coming from, ultimately what your threshold's going to be. So when you go finally and get the rest of your team together, you can say, look, this is what I've got. If we're looking in this community, this is what we're looking at. If we go across the street, this is what we're looking at. So you want to have something a little bit more comprehensive. And in my opinion, and I'm a little bit skewed, I've been in mortgage lending for a really long time, since rates were in the 8s and 9s. But that's something you want to do first, because that is fundamentally what makes or breaks a deal. What are you going to be able to finance? And then then you can go and say, this is what I'm looking for in this structure, in this community, and then you jump in the car and start banging on doors.
Okay.
So, I have a question for the bankers, because in negotiating, especially in a market like this, how can you get a step up by being more than just a pre-approval? How about being underwritten?
So, different banks have different operational policies, how they do mortgages. So there's times where a pre-approval is kind of like underwriting. We ask for credit, income, asset documentations, tax returns, all the things that, the metrics that we say we need in order to run your file through our automated underwriting system, to crunch all the numbers, crunch scenarios, credit scores, take a holistic look at the credit report. That is pretty much your bread and butter. As long as all the information that you give us up front matches what the documents say, then we run it through that system unless anything changes between when you find a home and it's application time. You're pretty much solid. You're good to go. So the key is to always communicate with your loan officer, right, in the event of any changes. The next piece of the puzzle is keeping it real, right? The more we know about your situation, the more that we can help navigate you. So we see your total financial picture. We're going to ask for everything. And what you disclose up front, what you don't disclose, regardless, once we get into process and true underwriting, we are going to see every single thing. There's nothing that you can hide from us in that mortgage transaction. So the key is communication up front. Now, one thing I do want to mention, because Tanya asked, where's the first route? We are sharing a lot of information. It's impossible to remember it all. If you've never gone through the home ownership journey yourself before, I would suggest your first route is to work with the National Faith, right? The housing counseling agencies. Their jobs are to provide you that education, to hold your hand and take you through that roadmap. So if you come to a lender first and you don't know the process, or you go to a realtor first and they're saying, no, can't do this, or no, you're not ready, a no can really hurt your feelings and can discourage you. So the key is getting the knowledge, the education, and the resources first before you start that journey, to understand where your credit is, to understand what lenders have, what their programs are, how do you get qualified.
Project a little bit.
Yeah, to understand how do you get qualified. The education is key. Before you make any financial decision, education is key. And our housing counseling partners are there to provide that free education for you. So that is ideally your first route. Now, if you're knowledgeable, you know the stuff hand and foot, or you have the support of someone, okay, talk to a lender first. But if this is a new journey for you, it is working with your housing counselors first. They will let you know where you're at on that home ownership journey. They can recommend different lenders. They can inform you on all of the products and programs that you are eligible for, and they will put you in front of the right team in regards of your specific situation, and they take that family approach where they're going to be your first route out of my recommendation in that journey, because they are going to make sure that before you get to that table, you're mortgage ready. Once you're mortgage ready, you have that pre-approval, now you can have a tangible conversation with your realtor, because now we know exactly how much money you can go out and spend. So that is the proper step in the journey to ensure that when you start at A, you can end at Z, and actually achieve that goal of home ownership, and it's stress-free, and you have the right people in your corner at the right time.
So the reason I ask that question is so that, let's say, instead of doing what he said, Aunt Sally said, hey, you know your brother-in-law is a loan officer, and he gives you a pre-approval, and you take it to your agent, and it's got, oh yeah, you're approved for 100,000, subject to this, and this. Your agent is probably going to say,
Baby, you're not ready.
and so look out for that, don't get overly happy if you have a pre-approval that has 15, 10, 15, 5 even things on it. It may say subject to the appraisal, subject to this not changing, but the other, yeah.
Can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to say at National Faith, we would love to have you in one of our classes. We hold a class once a month. It is virtual, and we actually teach you, are you ready to buy a home? Understanding your credit, getting a mortgage loan, balling on a budget. She teaches the class. Your insurance, closing on your home. We're there to help you. That's what we're there for. We want to make sure that you accomplish your goal is to purchase a home. And we don't want you. I just had a client this morning who said she wanted to live in Livonia. And I said, don't limit your options. I said, let us go over your finances to see where you are and what you can qualify for so that you can make the best choice for you and your family. Okay? So that's what we're here for. A lot of people don't want to listen to the counselor, but we're your key person. We're it. If you have any questions, we're there.
So are you really the coach and the quarterback? Did I get it wrong?
I didn't know who I was, so that's why I was like, if they're the quarterback, who are we? I didn't know who that was.
The coach.
I didn't know.
You're the coach. So you're helping everybody with the plays.
Yes.
Let's get
Yes.
the plays
Yes, but
down.
we are here for you, okay?
And then also I want to just add with that, don't just go because there's money there.
Yes.
You guys are going to be responsible for the next 30 years for that payment. You don't want to go somewhere where you look at the house in the daytime and
Yep.
you go at night, it's party city.
Yep.
So go somewhere
Yes.
that you're comfortable with, not just because the assistance. There's tons of assistance programs that can help you to purchase in any city. So go where you're comfortable with. We're not going to be responsible for those payments.
Right.
You're going to be responsible for the next 30 years.
Just keep your options open.
So I had an aunt and uncle that were just great at money management. They were the people that everybody in the family went to whenever they needed something. And most people have somebody like that in their family. So I was fortunate for them to tell me, listen, hey, baby, this is what you need. You need a good school system. I'm like, a good school system? I don't have any kids. I'm not married. I'm not thinking about any kids. She was like, well, you're not going to live there forever. And most people that want to purchase your home are going to be looking for a good school system for their kids. So encourage the folks that you're talking to. They're not buying for where they are right now. They're not only buying for where they want to be, because they might stay in the home and might grow to when they do have kids and a husband and different things that they're going to need in that neighborhood, or they want to be able to sell to a family that might want those things. So I really encourage them to do what I call investigations. Every Sunday, back in the day when they had the newspaper, I pull that paper out. Now you go on Zillow and you do your investigations. But investigate these different neighborhoods and what they have to offer and what you want. Some people want to live in a thriving city and be in the midst of everything and be able to, walk to restaurants and walk to games. But then there's other people that, hey, I don't want all of that. I want peace. I want quiet. I want to hear the crickets when I come outside. So, have them investigate what they really want in a home. a dream home, not just, oh, I think I can only afford to be in this area. Really take time and think about, write down what I want.
I was gonna say, with that being said, also, as a realtor, we cannot, if someone asks, well, is that a good neighborhood? How much crime? Is the school system any good? We are not allowed to give that information out. We will just refer you to those resources, and they talk about the school system. Are you, sometimes we'll call the police department, or even I think on Trulia or someone, they may give what's happening in that
Yep.
area, but we cannot answer, we cannot steer. So just know that we are not allowed to do that.
And that has to do with fair housing law. So let's do a quick and dirty on fair housing, all right? We just celebrated April was Fair Housing Month. And fair housing says that you cannot discriminate against a person. There's federal fair housing, there's state fair housing. Michigan just added the LGBTQ plus. And there may be some local laws. Ann Arbor, you cannot discriminate against students. So, and I think there's something in Detroit, I can't remember what it is. So you cannot base whether or not you're going to sell to an individual on what their race, color, religion, gender, sexual preference may be.
Age.
Age, yes, age, and that's Michigan. Age and, what's the other one? Age and, two of them go together in Michigan. It's age and something else that came about at the same time. And so if, as a home buyer, you think that you have been discriminated against, either by the agent or the seller or whomever, you have recourse. We have the Greater Detroit Fair Housing Center here that has started fair housing centers all over the state. And so if you feel, you can call them anonymously and say, I think I've been discriminated against. And believe me, there's testing that goes on, and it still happens. So know that you are protected against being discriminated against. If you want to live where you want to live. So just wanted to say that. And that's what she was talking about. We are not, because the possibility of saying, well, this school system is this neighborhood is that. You know, we have resources. We'll be happy to give you those resources. Check the police blotter. You might be surprised at what happened down the street from where you live. You know? Right. But fair housing is very important as real estate agents. It's part of our advocacy as real estate professionals for those people that we serve.
Well, I will say I'm not currently looking for a home, but still, every Sunday, my pastime is to do what I call my investigations. I don't know, I just enjoy it. It relieves stress for me. And so that Google is a really great thing for people looking for different things. And you can put all that information in there and say, okay, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. And it'll give you cities that will populate based on what you're looking for. But one thing that I can almost hear some of you saying, or maybe out there in cyberland, people are wanting to know, what kind of credit score do I kind of need when I come to a lender? What is a starting credit score that would be good?
We have a couple of different criteria. If you want to do business with this man's organization, you will need to have a 640 or higher middle credit score. So if you want the $10,000 down payment assistance, remember, no interest, no payment for up to 30 years.
It's a wonderful program, but when you sell and move, you do need to pay the state of Michigan back. But I have a real life story for this. My little brother used the MSHTA program to buy his very first home. It was a small condo in Lake Orion, Michigan, right out of college about 22 years ago. Believe it or not, he found a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo with a garage for $50,000. And he was overjoyed. So the 1% rule, my little brother came to closing with $500.
Wow.
He bought a $50,000 home, the MSHTA 7,500 at the time. It was 7,500, it's 10,000 today. Paid for everything else. The home inspection, the appraisal, paid for the down payment, paid for the escrow setup, paid for his first year's fire insurance, in case something happened to the place, everything. 7 years later, my brother sold that condo for $99,000 and made $49,000 profit. Actually more than that because he had paid the mortgage down as well. And he moved and he bought a home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, a bigger home in a different city. So the story is, even though it has a 640 score, you use the folks like National Faith Home Buyers. If you need financial coaching because you're just below that and you need some help, they can help you with that. I've got some tricks of things that you can do also to get your score up if you're just a few points below that. My bank offers a secure credit card. Other banks and credit unions do the same thing. But just keep in mind that the program, the 640 program, was a start for my brother. He now lives on the seashore in California in a $750,000 home, and it started with a $50,000 condo in Lake Orion. It truly did. Now,
The next class.
yeah.
When we say this is an opportunity to create wealth
Yes.
and legacy for your family, it truly is that. So I'm not trying to get anybody's kids kicked out of the house. This is the opportunity for them to really take ownership of their life and really start trying to figure the process out, because you don't have to have an 800 credit score. We just heard that.
True, and if we go back to the Detroit program and the Fifth Third grant, our $3,600 grant, our minimum credit score is 600. So we do want you to be able to manage your debt and pay your bills on time, because just like we've already talked about, we're going to lend you $100,000 for 30 years. We're not going to get our money back for a long time. So we want to make sure you can budget and pay for things. So we have the minimum of 600 credit score for the Detroit $25,000 program and for our grants, and there are similar programs. So we do have 600 minimum. I do want to go back to one other thing that Brandon, my boss, talked about. You got to be honest with your loan officer, because the data that you provide us, we put into the decision engine. It's called DU, Desktop Underwriter. MSHTA requires us to use it. So it asks me to put in how much do they make per month. I pull your credit. I know your debts. I know what your DTI or debt to income is. I know the price of the home. I know the taxes on the home. I've talked to your realtor about it. What are the taxes on this home? I talked to your insurance agent. What's the insurance going to be on this home given your profile? You should also make your insurance agent a partner. Before you put an offer on a home, call your agent with the address of the home you want to buy and say, I'm going to buy this, it's going to cost me $120. What's my insurance going to be per year, so that you're not surprised? So anyways, once you get these figures together, I press the DU Desktop Underwriter button on my laptop using my mouse, not my finger. And it yields me a result. And it can say approved and eligible, which is what we want. If I get that, it lets me print you a pre-approval letter. If I don't get that, I can't give you a letter. But we can also get an approved but referred result, which means that you're eligible for the program, but you're referred to a manual underwriter. That sometimes happens if you've had some blemishes in your past, like say a bankruptcy 8 years ago, or say your income is down this year versus last year, so you had a reduction in your income, and we have to explain to the underwriter what happened. Was overtime eliminated? Did you get laid off? Something happened. As long as we can explain what happened to your income and show that it's going back up again, we usually have a path forward. But the only other thing that the decision engine can do is can give you a flat-out denial. That normally doesn't happen unless you've had a recent bankruptcy that's discharged less than 2 years ago. So that sometimes can happen. But the important thing is, I've been in the business 21 years. I know what the desktop underwriter likes and doesn't like to get an approval. So if you have $2,000 in the bank and you're trying to buy a $100,000 home and it refers you, but I go in and tell it you've got $3,000 in the bank, but it approves you, I then tell you, you need $3,000 in the bank before you put an offer on a house this size. And if you have that, we can get a loan for you. If you don't, maybe you can get a gift from a family member for the $1,000 to get there. But you want someone who uses the software and knows it so that you know what to do and you have a path forward. Just like my boss Brandon said, when you work with a professional who's been doing this a while, we know the things that the software likes. Maybe, just maybe, you got to buy a little cheaper house. Maybe, just maybe, you got to kiss your insurance agent goodbye and shop for a cheaper price on insurance. I mean, you might. And that's the thing that you need to know.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we've shared quite a bit of information. We're not shutting it down just now, but how many of you starting to feel a little bit more comfortable that it's at least attainable for somebody that is currently renting somewhere to still be able to get a mortgage? It doesn't sound like you have to have an 800 credit score. We heard 600, 640-ish.
Yeah, it's not a 639. They don't make an exception.
640.
9 years ago, I tried for that exception, but they got a 639. It's only 1 point below. Please give my.
So that's when
No.
you go and see the coach that can help you get that 639 to 640, and you can walk in there and be confident when you're working with your lender, because you know, hey, I got my 640. Now I know where I can go and get my down payment assistance. I've been doing my investigations on Sundays. I know where I want to live at. Now I've been working with my coach. I'm going to see my quarterback, and looks like we're having Thanksgiving at my new house. You know, that could be a reality. And I'm just wondering, are there any questions that people might have that they might want to ask?
I'll ask one.
Sure.
Okay, credit score.
Now, so what we want is if you could come up to, we could do one or two things. We can get it on a card, or we can do this. Yes, we can use that mic.
Let me have that microphone. Sir, we're going to ask you to step to the microphone.
Okay. Okay, it's a simple question. Okay, you have Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And when you say credit score, if one is 800, one is 805, one is 760, are you looking at FICO score? What's it calculated on? when you say credit
We're looking at the middle score. So we throw out the high and the low, and we go by the middle. We do.
So it's an average.
Yeah, kind of. It's not an arithmetic average, though. We just go by the middle. Oh, we're not getting out our calculators. Although we can and do if we need to.
So are there any specific programs that are available for senior citizens?
The state does not have any, no.
Well, age is a protected class, so I can tell you that no lender in the country can discriminate against you on the basis of your age. If you are 90 years old, You want to get a 30-year fixed mortgage and you qualify for it? I have to sell it to you. And that is actually a good thing. Because if grandma or grandpa needs to move, they should be able to do that.
That's right.
No, for sure. But it's targeted to senior citizens. I mean, some senior citizens, this won't knock anybody out of their seats, are first-time home buyers.
Yes.
They may not have had the opportunity or they didn't feel comfortable buying a home because they were moving for their job or moving for love even. So if a senior citizen happens to be a first-time home buyer and buys in certain targeted areas, there are down payment assistance available for them.
And then I would like to add with that, depending on what city, you can get your taxes cheaper as well when you're a senior.
Or wave.
So in essence, maybe.
Or waive.
Or.
Waived.
Okay. Waived.
True, and disabled veterans get that.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to come see you. You know, I qualify for AARP right now. Get my stuff waived because, you know, there are folks that are in different seasons in their life. Their kids are moving out because they're getting ready to get their own mortgage. And you say, okay, well, now I can sell. I don't need this 4-bedroom house anymore. My kids are going to get their own mortgage. And I want to downsize and get my ranch. And there are down payment assistance programs that are still available for you. It might not be senior citizen, it doesn't say that, but if your income is lower, you may qualify for some of these programs that we're talking about. So just because we say, no, they're not called senior programs, doesn't mean that you don't qualify for the programs. Right. And that's where you go and you talk to your coach, and we talk about these programs, you talk about what city you're wanting to move in, and then your coach is gonna move you to the who? Quarterback?
We'll be patient, right? We will be patient.
Okay. Are there programs that help with renovations? So.
Yes. Our bank, and me specifically, there are 2 loan officers in the state of Michigan at Fifth Third Bank that offer a program called the FHA 203K renovation program. There are 2 different types. There is a limited K, which is limited to like $35,000 of renovation. I'll give you a real life story that happened to my buyer this January. Buying a small modest home up in Port Huron, Michigan. The appraisal comes back with 3 conditions on it. 1, the garage has fallen down and it's dangerous, it needs to be fixed. 2, there's a hole in the kitchen floor about 4 inches around, don't know why. And 3, I know why and I'll tell you. And then 3, on the back porch, there was some peeling paint. And when you use a government-backed loan, we don't like to see peeling paint because there could be lead in that paint and a pet or a small child could eat it. So what we did was, we got a bid from a contractor to tear down, haul away the garage, sweep the garage floor off, and we renamed it a patio. Then we got the window frame scraped where the peeling paint was and repainted, cleared that condition. We found out that the former owner liked to cook dinner and do laundry in the same space, and she put her dryer in the kitchen and had a hole 4 inches around dug for the exhaust fan to go out the side. So she did her laundry in the kitchen while she's cooking. So we patched that hole, fixed the garage, and fixed the peeling paint, and we were able to close. And that was about $4,700. Did those things. So the limited K allows the borrower or the buyer to act as their general contractor. This person was able to hire 1 contractor and get a bid, and it was very easy to close. If you do a project that's more costly than that, I've done a renovation loan in the city of Detroit, in the Boston Edison area, where the couple bought the house for $150,000 and put another $225,000 in it to make the home really nice. They had to get help from a HUD counselor so that someone besides that particular individual was managing the project, because the repair funds were over $200,000. But there is a loan for that, and it is possible.
And then there are also grants for renovations. One of them that Fifth Third does help process and administrate straight is called the Neighborhood Improvement Program, or NIP. And then there is another one that's called AMP, Accessibility Modification Program. And typically that's geared towards seniors or someone that's disabled, the second one, which is the Accessibility Modification Program, where if you need to have your bathroom renovated and put in some grab bars to be able to get in and out of the tub, or you know your grandparent might need that. You know, my grandmother received grant funds for that. So there are definitely programs that are available through the banks that are grants. There are definitely programs that are available through different cities or municipalities. You can call the local municipality and ask them what type of programs are available, because they get different funding from the federal government sometimes through the state, and they're not always loans. A lot of times they're grants. So, you know, ask. The worst they can say is no, and then maybe you'll, get a loan for it if you need to. Are there any programs for teachers specifically, or any discounts that are allowed for any teachers right now?
We had a teacher program where we were waiving $1,000 off from their closing costs, but that program has ended now. And oftentimes around Veterans Day, we do the same $1,000 off any purchase or refinance for veterans, so some of them are seasonal. At one time, there was first responder program for firefighters and police officers, but that has ended. I think that some of the programs will come back around again. They're just currently not active.
And I know some of the programs are geared towards physicians or healthcare professionals. So always ask your lender, because the programs do come back around again.
And our doctor program is for residents who've just been matched to a home, and they may have. I was successfully able to do 100% financing on a loan for a physician who was in still in training with fairly high student loan debt, but because of the formula that we used to qualify them, I was still able to get a loan. So.
Okay. Are there any non-income based down payment assistance programs?
I would probably say no, because each down payment assistance or grants always have criteria with it. It can be based on income, it can be based on area. It's always going to be some guidelines into using it. But I would say if your income is a little higher, we always recommend NISHDA because their income guidelines are higher for families.
Thank you. It looks like they're going to bring water up here for all of us.
Thank you.
We should have brought them up earlier, so I apologize.
Since all that smoke out there.
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
I just want to mention something. You have alluded to those kids that are living in the houses with their parents. And this isn't necessarily a grant, but in February, a first home buyer savings account was created where a parent, a grandparent, even a sibling could begin to put money into an account as long as that individual was going to buy a house in Michigan. It's almost like the 529 for college, and get a tax abatement for doing that. And so if you have some children that you do want to keep close to you, you can go to any financial bank in Michigan that does business in Michigan, and I think you can invest up to $10,000 that would be sitting there for that child to use to purchase a home in Michigan.
So for those that want your child to live next door.
I didn't say next door.
Or in the neighborhood, let's say, you can start those type of programs for them in addition to them getting these down payment assistance programs. So that's helping them with that 1% that they might need to utilize at some point. And I do believe every now and then for certain zip codes, there are programs that no matter what your income is, if you move to a certain zip code, there might be some funding. Is that still available?
That's true. Some of the down payment assistance programs and the grants are based on where you currently live or where you're buying, and they do that by census tract. That's true. So you should always talk to the lender that you pick about where you're interested in living to find out what programs will be. But just like the realtors had said, do not buy a house and commit to a 30-year mortgage just because you want an extra $1,000. Let's make sure you do the driveway test. I tell all my buyers, pull into the driveway, put the windows down in the car, and just sit there for a half an hour. Listen to the sounds of the neighborhood. If you can picture yourself pulling into that driveway and walking into that house, keep going. If you can't, keep looking.
Come at different times of day, 6 in the morning, time, in the evening.
Weekends.
You know, check it out. You're committing to living there. So even if you think you might not qualify for certain programs and it does happen to be within a certain zip code, you still might qualify. So I say, you know, if you're going through the home buying process and initially it doesn't appear that you might qualify, ask them to run the zip code anyway, just to double check, because you don't want to leave any money on the table. How are student loans evaluated in the home loan process?
Generally, we go by 3 rules. Because a loan is a commitment for 30 years on our part, if you're in deferment, we can't leave that 0 on there forever, because in the 30-year period, you will likely have to begin to pay some of it back. So I normally ask my customers and borrowers to get an income-based repayment plan letter from your servicer, because that number I can use in place of a 0. If you don't provide me with an income-based repayment letter and it shows 0, I have to charge you 0.5% of the balance, and based on how much you owe, that can become a significant number, like a car payment or even a small house payment. So the first thing I ask people to do is, if you do have significant student loan debt, something higher than $30,000, I say get yourself an income-based repayment letter. And then if you can't, then we do have to default to the 0.5%. That's an excellent question.
Okay, so I'm going to combine a couple of these questions because they're very similar. One is, how is household income determined with the down payment assistance programs? And then / what is the numeric breakdown used by lenders to determine someone's income or ability to purchase or afford a home? So whoever wants to jump in there.
Do you want me to take it?
Yes.
Well, so we determine household income by all adults in the household who live in the home have to disclose their income for the last 24 months. So we take their income, we see what they're doing, whether it's income that's we believe is going to continue, whether it's trending up, trending down. So the agencies have guidelines on the way that that we calculate that income. But for our program, it's all adults in the house. They have to disclose that income to see if they meet our criteria for the income limits that our program has.
And there are some exceptions for MSHDA, because I was able to get an exception for a deal I sent to MSHDA because we had an adult son with autism who did have some Social Security income, but he was deemed through a letter from his physician to not understand financial contracts and not be able to sign a purchase agreement or a mortgage statement. And the folks at MSHDA, when I provided the proof that I had, did not use that particular person's income. And the other thing you should know, MSHDA has, you know, a household of 1 or 2, and then they have 3 or more. So if you have a family of 3 or more, the income limits are also a little higher. And what was the other part of the question? Thought I missed one.
Um,
Or was that it?
I think you're pretty
Got
much
it.
got it.
Okay.
Just determining, what the formula is or numeric formula for how you can, whether or not.
Well,
you can afford a
MISHDA's
home.
formula is very clear on their website. So if you Google MISHDA and you go for income limits and even house price limits at $224,500, all that stuff is right there and easy to see. Now, for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're the giant companies that buy other lenders' mortgages, because you probably are aware of the fact, I work for Fifth Third Bank. You pay Fifth Third Bank for your mortgage, but I'm lending other people's money. I get the money from Fannie and Freddie. So your loan is sold to them, but I retain the servicing rights. You still pay my bank. The reason we do it that way is if we did not get our money replenished, if we did not get our money that way, we could run out of money to lend, and that would be a terrible thing. So, so what else was the
It was
question?
just trying to determine what the formula is. They want to.
Yeah, so anyways, Fannie and Freddie have websites that you go on, and based on either where you live or where you buy, it'll tell you what their income limits are. And this sounds somewhat confusing, because it somewhat is. That's what you hire a loan officer to do, because I am an expert and have all these sites saved on my Microsoft, and I go to find it, and then I can usually get this stuff pretty quickly, but it is out there.
And then also I wanted to add, so for our assistance program, it is based on household income. So a lot of times you may give the lender just your W-2 income, but you may receive child support or Social Security for a child. We count every income. So no matter if you only give the lender 2 incomes, we count any income that comes in your house. So that can get a little confusing too, because you may not disclose all of the income.
We're gonna go to the microphone.
Hello, my question,
Speak real loud.
my question is for the savings, first-time buyer savings account. Is it an interest-bearing account?
It is.
It can be.
That's good.
And I would say, search the different banks, because interest rates vary. The programs that they have at the different banks, and right now, because interest rates are higher, there are a lot more accounts on depository, or a lot more interest-bearing accounts when you deposit money now. They're higher than they have ever been.
Okay, and my second question, do you all know of programs for first-time buyers who are disabled? Is there any special programs geared towards housing disabled individuals?
I would probably say we would probably need to research it, because it was a time before where MISHDA actually had assistance programs if someone was disabled, but I don't think that program is no longer existing. But I'm pretty sure we can research different programs. That's what your housing counselor is for. They can research programs that qualifies for you.
Thank you.
And even if somebody is disabled, they might not say this program is for those that are disabled, but their income that they get might qualify them for certain programs. It just might not say this is for folks that are disabled, but this is my income and I meet this criteria. Does that make sense?
Yes.
True, and also just one more thing about the 203K program. If you buy a home that is not handicap accessible and the seller isn't willing to put in a ramp or fix the bathroom or lower the kitchen cabinets, you can have that work done, and it would be approved by FHA in the renovation program to do that. So that's something to consider.
And then don't forget that I mentioned that accessibility modification program grant, where they will do some of those same things for you for free. Just speak real loud.
So my question is also based off of the first home buyers account and the variable rate. How is it different than me just making my own savings account for myself, if I were to open up one of these for myself? Like, how is it different? Does that make sense?
So every bank has different types of savings accounts. And what I would say is research the different types of savings accounts to see how long you have to keep the funding in there without taking it out. And then the account that was specifically discussed was one that anybody can deposit in for you that was specifically for home buying or helping, assisting with down payment assistance. So that program may or may not be the one you want to get based on, your interest rate. Most people are going to look for which one has the best interest rate for me and how long do I need the money to stay in the account before I want to pull it out, and that's how they make their decision.
And some of those contributions can be tax deductible, and any interest that you accrue is a non-taxable event. So you get a tax deduction when you take the money out. After it grows, it's a non-taxable event there. So the advantages are subtle, but they're there. You bet.
I'm aware of one other.
About that program, I didn't realize you were asking about what I was talking about, but the other thing is that Michigan Realtors had fought for this for a long time, and we finally got it signed into law. There's a 5-year challenge, so it's until 2026. So if it's something that you think that you might want to do, or your parents or your grandparents, somebody wants to put into the account, get it going now.
No, and I do have one more thing to add. All individuals interested in first-time homebuyer program should also contact the HR department of their employer, because I did my first loan this year where the employer last year matched contributions. When the employee set up an account, they deposited at the same time the employee did, so it built twice as fast. So also leverage your HR department, because some employers do that because, as you know, some employers have a little bit difficult time hiring and finding folks, so they're adding some fringe benefits, and that's one of them.
That's good.
And I'm going to answer these 2 questions, and then I still want to give time for people to be able to talk to some of our experts one-on-one, because you might have a one-off situation that you don't want to discuss in front of the entire group. But a couple of quick questions. What if you're in between, meaning you have a good score, but income is considered too high for various down payment assistance / grant programs? And so what they're asking for is what opportunities are out there for somebody in that type of situation.
So you make too much money for down payment assistance programs? There's worse problems to have, right? Unfortunately, we don't encourage anybody to make less money when you're trying to buy a home. So unfortunately, there is a point where you no longer qualify. And I don't want to say unfortunately, but good for you, and we just hope you continue to trend that way. But there's really, every year our income limits adjust. And if you're close, you can watch it normally right around April to see if we get you next time. But I say you got good problems.
And also, I would add for that, if you have a higher income and if you're looking for a down payment assistance, I would probably say see a housing counselor, because you may need to adjust your budget.
Right.
And then,
Can I say one more thing?
yes.
If you feel like you don't qualify, if you're kind of like on the border, let us determine that.
Right.
Okay? Because you may be getting overtime that you don't normally get. It could be anything, but let us determine that, not you.
And they're the experts, so make sure you make them earn their money. So I almost would say somewhat, no, it's not quite lastly, what steps do you recommend taking for finding the right realtor?
I would say statistics have said that most first-time buyers or most buyers will use someone that they know, have been a referral. So because we want to do business with people we know, like, and trust. So definitely, if someone in your family, you have close friends or whoever, associates that you really like them and trust their word, see if they can refer someone to you also. I would say even when you're passing by houses, maybe in a certain neighborhood, you might see a sign and say, okay, well, this is the neighborhood, this is kind of house. Then take a look, give them a call and set up something, because one thing that you're interviewing us, but you know, everybody isn't a great fit for everybody.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you talk to people. And sometimes, you know, as Etwal mentioned, we can make referrals also. And I've even done that for out of state. You know, people who have tell me, oh, you know, I want to move, but I don't know any realtors here. So I, in turn, will kind of vet them and then give them a choice, and then say, here, you decide, make the last decision. But definitely, statistics say that it's definitely a referral-based business.
And this very last question is for Etwal, but before I read it, I'm going to give you an example of why I think it's important to use home inspections. You know, I've walked into homes that look absolutely beautiful. You know, they look like they are brand new and that everything is perfect. There was a time where I was fortunate enough to build a house from the ground up, and so I would have thought that everything would have been perfect with the home. It was not. We still hired a home inspector that found out that the air conditioner wasn't connected. And we would have had no idea because we moved in the wintertime. We had a couple of seals that were broken on the windows, but I'm not an expert. I can't tell because they haven't fogged up yet. But that's why you hire a home inspector, and the $400 or whatever the amount is for the inspector, it is well worth it, because you can make sure that you know everything that needs to be addressed with a home. In addition to that, you know, we have walked away from homes. We went and looked at homes that were beautiful. It looked like they were gutted from top to bottom. And when we got the home inspector in there and he came back with his list of things, I decided, hey, I don't think I really want this home after all. It used to be a pool in the back that I could no longer see because they put dirt in it, but it kept sinking and sinking. Those are things that I wouldn't have known with the naked eye, but I think it's just so important to make sure you get a home inspection, because they uncover some of the things that you don't know. However, this is the real question. Regarding the example that you gave concerning the request for a radon inspection, was it required because the home was located in a particular area, like an industrial area? What are the different types of home inspections?
First of all, radon, it doesn't necessarily, it was in a residential neighborhood. Radon is a gas, it's a natural occurring gas that's down in the earth, and it might just be a pocket of radon. So it was not, what was the second part? Was it required?
Are there certain
neighborhoods
that require it, and then also what are the different types of home inspections?
There are not particular neighborhoods that require it. I think that I have read statistically in the mountainous areas you may find more radon, but it seems to be in this area, in Michigan, it seems to be kind of a spotty type thing. And then other inspections, a lot of times when you get your general inspection, the inspector will say, have an HVAC person come and look at this. They will refer you to other people if they think that there is something wrong, but they're not sure, because they can't all be experts in all areas. So that is important for you to, pardon me, for you to, if the inspector says, you know, have a roofing person take a better look at this, take a closer look at this. If they say, what other kind of inspections? Mold. Yeah. A lot of times you think you might be looking at mold, but it's not really mold. If you have someone who is sensitive to they have asthma, or you have a child who is sensitive to mold or mildew. I have a sensitivity to mold, and so I can go up to a house and smell it before I go in, and I've explained to my clients, I can't show you this house because there may be mold. I'm not going to say there definitely is, because there's mold everywhere, but there are different kinds of molds that affect other people. Also, asbestos. I have some folks, and of course lead, but I had some clients who were just, I'm not sure why they were so sensitive about asbestos, but we had a beautiful condo, looked good on the outside, but the inspectors who do, especially environmental inspectors, they have all kind of nice little tools now, and they can tell if there's asbestos. There used to be some of the insulation had asbestos in it. So, yeah.
Floor tile.
Yeah, and the floor tiles. So if you move into a house, you need to not go down to your basement and start scraping up floor tiles. Because certainly there was a time, what is it, the 12 by 12s? The 12 by 12s are probably, if you have a 1950s and forward, they're probably going to be asbestos. So you can paint them. You know, you can. There are ways to ameliorate asbestos, but those are the types of inspections that people, and the lead inspection. Yes. A lot of people are doing the lead, especially if they're younger, or if you're an investor. And we haven't talked about being an investor, but that leads to wealth as well. So there are more and more cities that are talking about lead and getting lead inspections, because lead is sweet. And so our kids will eat it, and it causes all kinds of things.
There's one other one I want to mention, is the sewer scope. If you see a home and it's lots of trees, I recommend, or at least I say, you might want to get a sewer scope. It's totally up to them, because that's an additional cost, but you don't want to get in your home and you find the roots and all of that. There was a lot going on one time in Berkeley. Something about the pipes didn't go all the way. And there's insurance now that covers you going in when the pipes, it's not connected to the city, so, or they're broken. So you might just still want to get a sewer scope, because that could be costly.
Yeah, older homes. Yeah, older homes. Older homes will happen. You know, it's crock, and so it breaks down. But I'm using my cheat sheet. This is my essential tips for home buyers. And the one thing that neither one of us mentioned was the pest or termite inspection.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't think about that, but there are carpenter ants in this area, and there are termites, and that can be costly. So your inspector, usually your general inspector, will suggest that, you know, he's taken out his little pick or whatever they use, and it went straight through the wall or the porch or whatever. And he suggests that you get a pest or a termite inspection. So it's fixable, you know, it's treatable, but that's one that I had forgotten.
So we've come to a time in our program where I'm getting ready to turn it back over to Anika Mobley, but two things I'll leave you with is I would never buy a home without an inspection.
Right.
I would also say, get this down payment assistance money. Don't leave anything on the table. And so thank you so much for putting up with me over this last hour or so. And I'm going to turn it back over to him. Thank you so much.
So what did you think? How was tonight? Okay, on behalf, again, my name is Onika Mobley. I am a proud board member of the Torch of Wisdom Foundation and the chair of our community program. So on behalf of the Economic Education Series Steering Committee, I want to thank you all of our guests in the room and those who are virtually watching us. Thank you for joining us for this evening's really important workshop. And we want to especially thank our awesome panelists. I hope you all really enjoyed hearing from them. Thank you so much, April Hayes, Kimberly Brown, I love saying your name, Etoile Libet, Bonita Shulman, and Darren Montreal, and Mike Stark, and Brandon Huckstrup, who was with us earlier. Let's give them a round of applause. So, on behalf of the Torch and behalf of our partners, Fifth Third Bank and the Southfield Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we want to gift you with a small token of appreciation for joining us tonight, because we know you all are very busy. So, we are presenting you with a gift. I'm not going to pass them out to everyone, but I'll show everyone in the room. A Yeti mug. You know about the Yeti mugs. These stay warm or cold forever. And a gift card that you can use to fill the Yeti mug. A little coffee gift card. So we'll be passing these out at the end of the program. And for our audience members, those in the room, we have some special prizes for you also. So just stick around and we'll let you know what those prizes are and how we're going to distribute those. So, again, the Economic Education Steering Committee, we work year-round to bring really great programs like this workshop to our community, and we have a lot of activities coming up. So we work year-round. This is a working group. And I also want to thank the phenomenal volunteers who help put these events on. Can all of our volunteers please stand up, come up to the front really quickly so you can get your flowers right now. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for helping us bring this awesome workshop to our community. And this is not it. We have several events coming up. So please go to the Torch of Wisdom Foundation's website to find out what we have coming up. The next event, we will be participating in the Southfield Public School Back to School Rally, which is huge. Last year, there were about 2,000 people who attended this event, and we were there to support them and support our kids going back to school in the next academic year. So be on the lookout. Check out Torch of Wisdom Foundation, inc.com. That's Torch of Wisdom Foundation, inc.com for more about our events and just to learn about the Torch of Wisdom Foundation. Again, thank you. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next